Hours before his execution, Keanu Reeves made a request that confused everyone in the room. What would you ask for if you knew your life was about to end? A phone call, a prayer, a last meal. Keanu didn't ask for any of that. Instead, he quietly looked up at the guards and asked a question that made them pause. Can I see my dog one last time? Why would a man facing death think about a dog instead of himself? Why not ask for mercy? Why not beg for more time? Did he already accept his fate? Or did he know something no one else did? The room went silent. Pens stopped moving. Eyes lifted, no one spoke. Was this a man breaking down? Or a man holding on to the only thing that ever showed him unconditional loyalty? Have you ever noticed how people reveal who they truly are when they have nothing left to lose? Was this his goodbye or his final stand? Because what happened after that simple question didn't just delay an execution. It exposed a mistake so shocking that everyone involved would remember this moment for the rest of their lives. And the strangest part, it all started with a dog. The prison didn't feel real that morning. Have you ever noticed how silence can be louder than noise? The hallways were cold, painted in colors meant to feel neutral. But nothing about this place was neutral. Every step echoed longer than it should. Every sound felt final. Keanu Reeves sat alone in a narrow room under a flickering light, hands cuffed, back straight, breathing slow. Not the posture of a man panicking. Not the posture of a man begging for time. But the posture of someone who had already made peace with the worst possible outcome. What goes through a person's mind when the clock is no longer hypothetical? Do you think about your mistakes, your regrets, or the people and animals you love most? A guard flipped through paperwork without looking up. Another checked his watch for the third time in under a minute. Witnesses waited behind the glass, whispering softly, as if volume itself could change the outcome. Keanu stared at the floor, not because he was ashamed, but because that was where memories hit hardest. He remembered long walks at night, quiet mornings, a dog that never asked questions, never judged, never left. Isn't it strange how unconditional love often comes from the places we least expect? Minutes passed. Then Keanu finally spoke, not loud, not dramatic, almost hesitant. Can I ask something? What is it? Keanu lifted his eyes. Can I see my dog just once? The question didn't sound desperate. It sounded human. The room froze. One of the witnesses raised their eyebrows. Another shook their head slowly. A guard laughed under his breath, not cruelly but in disbelief. A dog. Out of everything a man could ask for in his final hours, why a dog? Would you understand that request? Or would you dismiss it the way they did? Rules were rules. Final requests usually meant food, letters, or religious rites. Animals weren't on the list. Animals didn't belong in a place built for endings. The head guard looked at Keanu carefully. You know that might not be possible. Keanu nodded. I understand. No argument, no emotion, just acceptance. And that made it worse. Because people expect desperation, they expect fear. But calm makes others uncomfortable. Have you ever noticed that? The guard stepped outside to talk. The door didn't close all the way. Whispers slipped through the crack. It's pointless. It won't change anything. Why make this harder? Keanu waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. Minutes felt heavier than hours. His breathing stayed steady. Inside, though, something shifted. Because he wasn't asking for comfort. He was asking for connection. And sometimes connection is the most dangerous thing of all. The door finally opened. A guard stepped back in. Sit tight, he said. That was all. No explanation. No answer. Just uncertainty. And if you've ever been trapped between hope and finality, you know, that's the longest wait of all. So let me ask you this. If you were in that room, with nothing left to gain, would you still ask to see the one being who never abandoned you? Because what happened next didn't just affect Keanu. It changed the mood of the entire building, and once that door opened again, nothing would go according to plan. The door opened slower this time. Not the rushed movement of routine, but hesitation. Have you ever noticed how people move differently when they're unsure if they're doing the right thing? A guard stepped in first. Then another. Between them a leash. Keanu Reeves lifted his head. And for the first time that morning, his calm cracked. Because at the end of that leash was the one soul that never questioned him. His dog. The animal froze the moment it saw him, as if time itself stopped. Then its tail began to move. Slow at first, then faster. The quiet room filled with a soft whine. High-pitched, desperate, familiar. The dog pulled forward, hard. The guard tightened his grip, surprised by the sudden strength. Easy, he whispered. though no one was sure who he was talking to. Keanu dropped to his knees, not because he was weak, but because some bonds demand humility. The dog lunged the final step and pressed its body into him, shaking. Its paws scrambled against his chest, its face buried under his chin like it had done 1,000 times before. Keanu wrapped his arms around it, and in that moment the prison disappeared. No bars, no witnesses, no clock counting down. Just breath, warmth, memory. Have you ever hugged someone knowing it might be the last time? If you have, then you know words become useless. Keanu didn't cry loudly. No sobbing, no collapse. Just quiet tears that landed on the dog's fur. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Not for himself. For the nights he wasn't home. For the days he left too early. For the moment he wouldn't be there anymore. The dog pulled back slightly and looked at him, straight into his eyes. Head tilted, confused, as if asking a question humans never want to answer. "Why are you sad? Why does this feel different?" The witnesses behind the glass stopped whispering. One woman covered her mouth. A guard looked away. Another cleared his throat, pretending to check the time. Because no one is trained for this part. Executions are procedures. This was love. The dog suddenly stiffened. Its ears went up, it turned its head toward the guards, then toward the door, then back at Keanu. A low growl escaped its throat, soft, but unmistakable. Have you ever seen an animal sense danger before humans do? The guard holding the leash tightened his grip again. "Hey, relax," he murmured, but the dog didn't. Its body leaned forward, protective. Alert, almost accusing. Keanu noticed. He placed a hand gently on its neck. "It's okay," he whispered, but the dog didn't calm down. Instead, it barked. Once, sharp, sudden. The sound echoed off the walls. Everyone froze. The head guard frowned. "That's enough," he said. The dog barked again, louder. Then it pulled hard. The guard stumbled half a step forward. In the movement, a folder slipped from under his arm. Papers scattered across the floor. White pages against cold concrete. One slid farther than the others, right to Keanu's knee. No one moved at first, because moments like this don't feel real until they pass. Keanu looked down. He didn't intend to read anything, but the name at the top of the page stopped him cold. His name, typed. Official. Below it a number. Not his case number, not his inmate ID, something else. Keanu's brow tightened. The head guard noticed the look. "What is it?" Keanu didn't answer. A different guard stepped forward and picked up the page. He scanned it, not twice. His face changed. Not slowly, instantly. Color drained. His eyes widened, not with fear, but realization. "Sir," he said quietly. The room leaned toward him. "This document, it's not supposed to be here." The head guard stepped closer. "Let me see that." He took the paper. Read the first line, then the second. His jaw locked. Behind the glass, the witnesses felt it. Something had shifted. "What does that mean?" someone asked. No one answered. The dog barked again, louder, as if insisting. The head guard looked at Keanu, then at the clock, then back at the paper. "This execution is paused," he said. Paused, not stopped, paused. A word that doesn't exist in a room built for finality. Keanu looked up. "Why?" The guard swallowed. "Because there's a discrepancy," he said. "And if this is real..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Because everyone in that room understood one thing. This was no longer routine. And whatever that dog had sensed, it arrived just in time. After the dog's bark, after the papers scattered across the floor, the room didn't move immediately. Have you ever felt a moment so heavy, it makes the air itself feel thicker? That's how the prison felt. Guards whispered to each other. Witnesses pressed faces against the glass. The head guard held the document like it was a ticking bomb. One question hung in the air: what did this mean for Keanu Reeves? Minutes passed. But in moments like these, minutes feel like hours. Every second stretched unnaturally. The guard who had found the document spoke first. This number. It doesn't match the records. There's been a clerical error. A clerical error. Can you imagine knowing that a man is minutes from death, and a simple mistake could have ended everything? The head guard's voice tightened. Double, check everything. Every signature, every file. This needs confirmation immediately. Keanu stayed still, hands cuffed, eyes calm. But inside, adrenaline surged. Have you ever noticed how the quiet ones often have the sharpest awareness? The dog pressed its body against him, almost like sensing his tension. Almost like saying, "Don't panic yet." Another guard ran toward the records room. Papers shuffled. Phones rang. Keys clattered. The room became a hub of activity, all focused on one man, one life, and one small dog who had somehow triggered the chaos. A witness whispered to another, "Do you think they'll let him live? Do you think you would?" Could you imagine being responsible for the fate of someone innocent, but only realizing it at the last second? Keanu didn't speak, he just watched. Calm, silent, every sense alert. A lifetime of discipline and focus honed in these final minutes. The guard returned with another folder. Headed straight for the head guard, he flipped it open slowly, and then paused. Have you ever seen someone's face go pale in real life? Not scared, but stunned. This is him, the guard said, voice trembling. This is the man in the wrong papers. Wrong man, wrong execution date, wrong signature, wrong document entirely. A ripple of shock went through the room. The witnesses gasped. One woman pressed both hands to her mouth. Another sat back, wide-eyed, unable to process the revelation. Keanu looked at the guard, not with anger, not with relief, just calm. Have you ever noticed how true courage is silent? Check everything, he said softly. Every name, every date. The head guard nodded. It's happening now. We'll verify. There's no margin for error. Time stretched. Every moment Keanu remained cuffed was a moment filled with tension. He could feel the energy in the room, an electric mixture of fear, disbelief, and urgency. The dog remained pressed against him, a living, breathing anchor in a sea of chaos. Have you ever felt a calm presence in a moment when nothing else makes sense? Another guard returned, holding a small stack of corrected documents. This is the man scheduled for execution. It's not him. He's innocent. The words hung in the room. Keanu's eyes met the head guard's. Not in anger, not in accusation, just understanding. A question whispered among the witnesses: how often do mistakes like this happen? A tense silence followed. Then, slowly, the head guard took a deep breath. Keanu Reeves, you are free to step aside. No further action will be taken. You are not the man. The room exhaled collectively. Guards loosened their grips. Witnesses leaned forward. Phones emerged. Everyone was desperate to record, to process, to make sense of the impossible. The dog wagged its tail slowly, almost in recognition of what had just transpired. Keanu bent down, ruffling its fur. Have you ever felt gratitude so deep it almost freezes time? He whispered softly, almost to himself. Thank you. Not to the guards. Not to the witnesses, to the dog. The small, loyal presence that had sparked the chain reaction, saving his life. People around the room began murmuring, sharing glances that mixed disbelief and relief. How often do we forget the quiet, loyal things in life that can make the difference between life and death? Keanu's gaze swept across everyone. Calm, controlled, but his mind was moving faster than anyone could see. Every step, every motion, every detail mattered. Every second before could have been his last. Have you ever considered how fragile life can be? How a single moment, a single decision, or even the bark of a dog can change everything. The head guard stepped closer, lowering his voice. You should leave immediately. We need to reprocess the records fully. Keanu nodded. He remained calm, but in his eyes, there was a glint of awareness. A glint that said, I know how close I came. The dog pressed its head against his chest again, and in that quiet, simple act, everything made sense. Sometimes life hinges on the smallest things, and sometimes the quietest beings carry the greatest power. The prison, once a cage of impending death, now felt strangely like a reminder. A reminder that loyalty, patience, and calm could defy the impossible. As Keanu rose to leave, witnesses couldn't stop asking themselves, would you stay calm in that moment? Would you notice the little signs that could save your life? Could a dog truly change everything? The doors closed behind him, and outside, the world would never know the tension, the close call, or the small creature that made all the difference. Yet, in the silence of that prison, one truth remained. Sometimes love and loyalty are stronger than fear and finality. The verification process moved quickly now. Every guard, every official, every witness felt the weight of what had almost happened. Have you ever been so close to something irreversible that the air itself feels heavy? That's exactly how it felt in that prison that morning. Keanu Reeves sat quietly, hands still cuffed, dog at his side. His eyes scanned the room, not with panic, not with fear, but with calm awareness. Every movement, every sound was noticed. He didn't need to speak to be in control. Have you ever noticed how the quiet ones always seem the most alert? The head guard approached with the corrected paperwork. His face was pale, and his hands trembled slightly as he held the documents. This proves it, he said. Everything in the system has been cross-checked. You are not the man scheduled for execution. You are free to go. The room erupted, not with cheering, but with a stunned silence. Witnesses stared, guards exchanged glances, and phones were pulled out to capture what they had just witnessed. Keanu looked down at the dog, and for the first time, a faint smile appeared. Have you ever experienced a moment where relief and disbelief hit at the same time? That's exactly what it felt like, for everyone. One of the witnesses whispered, "I can't believe it." Minutes ago, he could have been gone. Another asked, "How often does something like this even happen?" The head guard cleared his throat. "Rarely, but errors do occur. Today this dog made a difference." The word hung in the air. A dog, the small, loyal companion, had been the catalyst for survival. Have you ever realized how animals often notice what humans miss? Keanu bent down and hugged the dog tightly. "I don't know how to thank you," he whispered. The dog licked his face, seemingly aware of the gravity of the moment. Guards and witnesses watched in awe. It wasn't just the correction of a mistake, it was the reminder that love and loyalty can influence the course of life. That small acts, small presences, can shift fate itself. One guard muttered under his breath, "I'll never underestimate a dog again." Keanu finally rose. His movements slowed, deliberate, confident, hands now free. Dog at his side, he looked around the room. The witnesses held their breaths. Everyone wanted to see what he would do next. Then he spoke, not loud, not dramatic, calm, almost meditative. Sometimes, it's not strength or power that saves us. Sometimes it's the quiet things, the loyal things, the ones we take for granted. Have you ever thought about what loyalty really means? How far it can go? The head guard nodded silently. Words felt unnecessary. They all understood outside. The corrected paperwork had already reached higher authorities. Verification would be complete in hours, but in this room, one truth was already clear. Keanu Reeves had been saved, not by intervention, not by luck, but by awareness, calm, and an unshakable bond with a creature many might have dismissed as just a dog. Keanu patted the dog's head. "We need to get out of here," he said quietly. "Time to go." And as they walked toward the exit, every witness who had seen this unfold felt something shift inside themselves. Have you ever witnessed something that changes the way you see the world? Something that makes you reconsider how small moments can have massive consequences? People outside would never know the tension, the fear, the close call, but those inside had experienced something unforgettable. The dog had been calm, observant, and courageous in its own way. Its loyalty had saved a life. Keanu paused before leaving the hall. He turned slightly to look at the head guard and the witnesses. "Remember this," he said, "life is fragile. Mistakes can happen. But even in the darkest moments, there's always a chance for salvation. Sometimes it comes from the most unexpected places." Have you ever stopped to think how many times small, unnoticed acts, loyalty, attention, care, have changed someone's life? The door opened. Light flooded the corridor. Keanu stepped through, dog beside him. Freedom, relief, and gratitude radiated from him. Witnesses couldn't help but whisper among themselves, "If a dog can save a life, what else are we missing?" Would we notice in time? Could we stay calm like that? Keanu looked at the world outside the prison, breathed deeply, and for the first time that morning, felt the weight lift. The dog barked softly, tail wagging, as if celebrating victory quietly, without need for applause. In that moment, Sultan is the one that stayed with everyone. The calm in the storm, the loyalty, the small creature that reminded humans of what truly matters. If you were there, would you have stayed calm like Keanu? Would you have noticed the signs? Type loyalty in the comments if you believe small acts of love and awareness can truly save lives. And ask yourself, if you had a companion like that, could you trust them to guide you through the impossible? Because sometimes, the quietest presence is the most powerful force in the world. The hallway outside the prison was quiet. Too quiet. Have you ever noticed how silence can feel heavier than noise, especially after a life-altering moment? Keanu Reeves walked slowly, the dog at his side, every step measured, every breath calm but deliberate. The guards behind him, once tense and frantic, now moved cautiously. They knew they had almost been part of a tragedy. The world outside awaited, but inside him, a storm of thoughts raged silently. How close had he been to death? How easily mistakes could destroy a life? How fragile the line between freedom and finality really is. The dog walked confidently beside him, ears alert, tail low but steady. Every instinct of loyalty, awareness, and protection radiated from the animal. And Keanu knew, without the dog's presence, he wouldn't be standing here today. Have you ever felt that kind of gratitude? A sense that life itself handed you a second chance through someone, or something, you never expected. A crowd had gathered outside, reporters, cameras, curious onlookers who had heard whispers of the near execution. Murmurs traveled fast. Keanu Reeves freed at the last minute. But no one knew the full story. Keanu glanced at the dog. "You were right," he said softly. "Timing matters. Observation matters. Calm matters." The dog wagged its tail slightly, as if acknowledging its own part in the chain of events. Behind the cameras, whispers spread. Some tried to piece together what had happened. But the truth was almost unbelievable. The dog had triggered the discovery of an administrative error that could have ended a man's life. Have you ever wondered how many lives hang on a thread, unnoticed until something small intervenes? Keanu stopped before leaving the prison grounds completely. He looked back, scanning the building. His eyes met the head guards, and in that silent exchange, a deep understanding passed between them. "You did everything you could," Keanu said quietly. The guard nodded, swallowing hard. "We were lucky, very lucky." Keanu shook his head. No, it wasn't luck. It was awareness, calm and loyalty. Witnesses in the crowd began whispering to each other, "A dog saved him." Can that even be true? And that's when the final twist happened. The prison warden approached Keanu with a file in hand. "There's one more thing," he said. "We reviewed all cases from this morning. Your situation, your near execution, triggered a full audit. You're not the only one who could have been affected." The crowd gasped softly. Phones captured reactions. Reporters leaned in. The dog barked once, sharply as if insisting attention be paid. Have you ever realized that one small, calm action can ripple far beyond your understanding? That saving yourself might also save others? Keanu nodded. "Then let it be a lesson," he said, his voice calm, commanding, and measured. "Awareness and loyalty are stronger than panic and fear. Every life is worth that attention." The dog nudged his leg. He smiled. "Yes, even yours." He stepped forward, finally leaving the prison grounds completely. Freedom. Relief life. Every witness, every guard, every reporter felt something they couldn't quite explain. They had seen courage, calm, and love all in one moment. And it wasn't flashy. There were no punches, no explosions, just precision, awareness, and trust between a man and his dog. Have you ever noticed how the simplest things can have the greatest impact? As Keanu walked away, reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed, but he didn't answer. Not yet. He only kept moving forward, dog beside him, eyes focused, calm, controlled. The crowd murmured among themselves. If he had panicked, would he still be alive? Could we have noticed in time? Could a dog really make that much difference? These were the questions no one could answer, not fully. But the truth was clear. Without calm, without observation, without loyalty, this story would have ended differently. Keanu finally paused near a small garden outside the prison grounds. He knelt down, hugged the dog tightly, and whispered, "You kept me alive. Not just physically, but mentally. You reminded me what matters." The dog barked softly, tail wagging as if agreeing. And then Keanu addressed the crowd for the first time. "Sometimes, the quiet ones, the loyal ones, see what the rest of us miss. Sometimes life gives us a second chance through someone else's awareness. Appreciate it, protect it, and never underestimate the power of calm, loyalty, and love." Have you ever stopped to think who, or what, is silently watching out for you in your life? He stood up, dog by his side, and began walking into the sunset, leaving the prison and the near tragedy behind. But the lesson lingered in everyone's minds. Strength is measured not by force but by control. Loyalty can save lives. Calm can change destiny. The witnesses didn't move immediately. They were too stunned. Phones were out. Fingers typed comments, posts, whispers. Everyone wanted to share this story. Not the near death, not the prison, but the dog, the calm, the loyalty, the second chance. And so the world learned true heroism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, attentive, and faithful. Sometimes it's in the bark of a dog and the calm eyes of a man who knows what really matters. Have you ever considered that your smallest action today might save someone tomorrow? That loyalty and awareness are worth more than strength or fear. Type loyalty in the comments if you believe small acts can truly change lives. And ask yourself, if your life hung in the balance, would you stay calm? Would you notice the signs? Would you trust the quiet ones to guide you? Because sometimes, Sultan, the smallest beings and the calmest humans, hold the power to rewrite fate. Keanu Reeves stepped out into the sunlight, the air crisp against his face. Freedom, life, every heartbeat felt heavier and lighter all at once. Have you ever realized how small moments can define entire lives? The dog walked faithfully at his side, tail swaying gently, ears alert. Every instinct of loyalty radiated from it. And Keanu knew that without this silent companion, without that quiet, unwavering presence, He might not have lived to see this day. The crowd outside the prison murmured in disbelief. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered scribbled type. But no one could fully capture the weight of what had just happened. A near execution halted not by lawyers, not by luck, but by awareness, calm, and love. Have you ever been part of a moment that felt larger than life, where every detail mattered? Keanu paused and looked around. Guards, witnesses, reporters, they all stared at him, searching for words. He lifted a hand slightly, calm but commanding, and spoke. Life is fragile, he said. His voice carried a quiet authority. We think strength is in power. We think survival is in fight or fear. But real strength is awareness, loyalty, calm, control. The dog barked softly, almost in agreement. Tail wagged once, a subtle punctuation on the moment. Keanu crouched down and whispered to it. You saved me. Not with force, but with attention, with loyalty, with awareness. And in that pause, everyone watching felt it. The gravity, the quiet heroism, the lesson of the day. Have you ever noticed how small acts, unnoticed by the world, can have the biggest impact? Reporters began asking questions. Phones recorded every word. Witnesses shared stories of what had unfolded inside. But Keanu didn't answer most of them. Instead, he let the silence speak. He let the calm speak. He let the dog speak. One journalist finally asked, how did it feel, knowing you were minutes from death? Keanu looked up, calm, controlled. Fear isn't useful. Panic doesn't save lives. Awareness does. Loyalty does. Calm does. That's all I needed, and that's all that mattered. The crowd was silent. Some nodded. Others whispered. Some typed notes furiously. But everyone understood the quiet, loyal presence of a dog had rewritten fate. Have you ever wondered if your own life could be saved by noticing the little things? By staying calm in a storm, by trusting the quiet ones? Keanu finally stood, dog at his side. He looked toward the horizon, breathing deeply. The sun illuminated the street, reflecting on the faces of everyone who had witnessed the impossible. You see, he said, voice calm but powerful, life gives us second chances. Sometimes we earn them. Sometimes they're gifted by forces we underestimate. But one thing is certain: loyalty, awareness, and calm can save more than one life. They can save many. The dog barked again, soft but insistent, and nudged his leg. Keanu laughed quietly. Yes, you've done enough. Every witness felt a strange stillness, a mix of relief and reflection. They had watched a life almost lost, a near tragedy avoided, and a small being's loyalty alter history. Have you ever considered the power of a quiet, loyal companion in your own life? The crowd began to disperse slowly, but whispers continued. A dog saved him. How did he stay so calm? Could I have noticed it in time? Keanu glanced at the guards. Remember this, he said softly. Strength is measured by control, not rage. Awareness saves lives. Loyalty matters more than force. Never forget it. The dog barked once more, tail wagging, and Keanu nodded. Together they walked down the street, leaving behind the prison, the near death, and the chaos. But their story lingered in the minds of everyone who saw it. Have you ever realized that sometimes the quietest beings hold the greatest power, that the calmest people can change destiny? That loyalty and attention, often unnoticed, can rewrite fate? Keanu paused on the sidewalk, looking back once at the prison. The shadows of the building stretched long, but he felt no fear, only gratitude, only awareness, only the bond that had saved him. He turned, fully, dog by his side, and stepped forward. Freedom, life, and the knowledge that every small, loyal act matters. Have you ever asked yourself, if my life depended on calm, awareness, and loyalty, would I survive? Would I notice the signs? Would I trust the quiet ones? Keanu Reeves had been minutes from death. He had faced the finality of execution, and he had survived, not because of chaos, not because of luck, but because of calm observation and the loyalty of a small dog who refused to look away. The crowd watched as he disappeared into the distance, the dog trotting faithfully beside him. Cameras flashed, whispers spread, stories went viral. But the lesson remained clear: strength isn't loud, courage isn't chaos, and loyalty silent. Faithful loyalty can change everything. And now it's your turn. Could you stay calm if your life depended on it? Would you notice the small signs that could save you? Do you believe loyalty and awareness can truly rewrite fate? Type LOL in the comments if you believe a small act of love or awareness can save a life. And remember, sometimes, the quietest heroes are the ones who change history.